Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to E-Coffee with Experts. This is Ranmay here. And today we have Richard Kennedy, who is the Managing Director at Arken Digital with us. Welcome, Richard.
Hi, well, thanks for having me.
Great. Richard, before we move any forward and pick your brains, why don't you talk us through your journey thus far and what Arken Digital is all about? What are your core offerings? What niches do you cater to? And we'll take it forward from there.
Sure. So to give you a bit of background on me, I've been in SEO and digital marketing for around 14 years. I initially started as a way to avoid getting a job, as most teenagers do. We can go into that as well. But I started like most people do in general digital marketing, and then found something that I enjoyed, which was SEO. We then went into all SEO, and that's all we do. And then from there, we now specialize with local service business, so like plumbers, roofers, and we just help them with their SEO and their specifically local SEO, so the map pack and the organic. We do all the link building and all that boring stuff.
Great. Yeah. Richard, you mentioned being fascinated by SEO from a very young age. How do you see the SEO industry evolving since then? And what are some of the key trends shaping the industry in the coming years?
Yeah, so I don't know if I was fascinated with SEO when I'm 31 now, so I was 17 when I first got into SEO, and it was more of when you go to college, you need to get a job, and most teenagers don't want to get a job. So I looked at how could I make money through the internet, and that's how I got into SEO. Started with, I think, the pretty typical path of like affiliate marketing, all that lead gen for companies, and I've done the bare minimum, I think, like most teenagers would do, just to avoid getting a job in the local supermarket, basically. So that's how my career in SEO started, as a way to avoid getting a job.
All right, great. Your journey began with a focus on design, but eventually it shifted to SEO. So, how do you think your design background has influenced your approach in SEO and content marketing? And how has it changed your perspective that you bring to SEO?
Yeah, so I started whilst I was going to college, I was doing graphic design. And to be completely honest, it was probably a hindrance. The saying that a little bit of knowledge is dangerous, I think that was very much the case. I was going to college for a couple of years doing graphic design. I thought, I was a good graphic designer. After growing to the point now where I have my own designers, I realized I'm not a good designer, or as not as good as I thought I was. So it hasn't really influenced it in that way. But what it has done is it's given me the experience in the sort of processes that designers go through, and the processes of turning a piece of content into something that's visually pleasing. I understand that, I think, better than I would have otherwise. But I think for sure when I started, I produced some stuff that was maybe questionable in terms of how it looked, and I thought it looked quite good. But yeah, also saying a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. I think that was very much the case when I started with graphic design.
Great. Yeah. Let's talk about sustainability, one topic which you'd love to. Like you mentioned, the Green Room Arkin is focused on sustainable. Throw some more light in terms of your perspective about that.
Yeah. So a lot of people, when I talk about sustainable SEO, they think eco-friendly SEO, and that's not necessarily what I mean. So what I mean by sustainable SEO is something that we can sustain over a long period of time, and that is continual growth for a company. We're not talking about getting a company and 10 times in how many products they sell in the space of a few weeks. It just doesn't work like that anymore. But we're doing stuff the right way. We're building up a solid foundation for all of our clients, so then we can target what we would call like the bigger terms. So we don't always start small, because that always assumes that our clients start from scratch. Not all of our clients are starting from scratch, but it's building up in a way that we're targeting what's realistic to target. We're not getting a company on board and just going after the big C terms that are great once we get there, but doesn't have sustainable growth, because it's not something you can grow in the short term, really. So that's what I mean by it, that we can grow over time. It's not something that we're going to do 6 months and then we're going to go, oh, we can't grow you anymore, because we've done it in a way that we can build up with the smaller stuff, and then build up to what you would call like the seed terms, and go from there. Hopefully I've explained that quite well. I don't know if I have or not.
Great. And then how do you balance the short-term and long-term goals when developing SEO strategies for your clients? And what are key elements of sustainable SEO that you consider in your strategy that ways?
Yeah. So a lot of it comes down to where the business is starting from. So if we're talking with a brand new website, it's unrealistic for us to target the most competitive terms in the industry. So we have to think of another way to do that, whether that's if you're like a local service business, whether that's targeting specific services in the local area as opposed to uh, general sort of, so for example, if you were a plumber, targeting like London plumber is very competitive, but maybe targeting bathroom fitters London, that's still going to be quite competitive in fairness. But like one way that we could go to building business for the short term whilst also keeping an eye on the long term, because we can't just go for the main C terms with a brand new website. And that's also true with more of an established website. Depends on, where they're starting from. If they're an established website, but they've had no SEO done before, we're still going to have to build up. If they're an established website, they've got to a certain point where maybe all their services pages are ranking well, but they just can't get their C terms. So it's hard to, I hate saying it depends, but it does depend on where they're starting from, what their eventual goals are, and also how much they can invest in SEO, because it's not free. You can't always go for the most competitive terms with a limited budget. So more often than not, it's about building up the business in the short term through achievable terms, and then go from there once we start getting the ball rolling. And ranking for anything helps ranking for stuff that's more competitive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in an agency or as an agency owner, right, building relationships with your clients is so important to ensure that, like we say, your retention starts with your sale in the first place. Can you provide insights into how you cultivate and maintain these relationships and how they contribute to the success of your clients as well in terms of the work that you do for them?
Yeah, so that's something that we've learned over time. Initially, I don't want to say neglect, that's maybe a bit of a strong word, but we didn't tell our clients everything we were doing, not because we were hiding everything, it's just because we didn't think they were interested, to be brutally honest. Then we went the other way and we told them every single thing we did, and then it just got too much as well. So it's something I've learned is balance is key. So it depends on the client. Some clients want to know everything we're doing. Some clients want to be sent a report at the end of every month. And the funny thing is, a lot of clients don't even read the reports, which is always quite disheartening when you put together a nice report. I think for most of our clients, hearing from us as little as possible is probably ideal. But yeah, it's a fine balance to really do. It depends on the client. It depends on the type of client as well. So we have a couple of e-commerce clients, for example, that sales can be down quickly on that. So those sort of clients are the ones that we speak to every week. Whereas local service businesses, if the phone's ringing, they're happy and they just get their monthly report. So it's quite a fine balance. And it really, for us, it's really dependent on the type of industry that they're in or how much we communicate with them. I think I may have waffled on, of course, there a little bit, but hopefully that answers your question.
Absolutely, absolutely. It did. Moving on, Richard, like you spoke about backlinks. So, just taking a cue from that conversation, building quality backlinks is the cornerstone of SEO. What perspective of yours in terms of on modern link building techniques, and how do you ensure that the links you acquire are high quality and relevant? And before you start, I loved when you said we build links thinking that, let's say if Google is not there, will that link be relevant? I just loved it.
Yeah. So in terms of link building, the reality is every method that you've heard, maybe not every method, but most methods that are pretty popular can work. It's just, for example, guest posting. What I say is a guest post and what someone else says is a guest post the quality can be massive. And unfortunately, when you talk about guest posting, a lot of people just chuck them in the garbage bucket. Whereas good guest posts on good quality sites are great, and we build them for our clients. What is a quality website though depends on who you ask. Some of the like we go through the normal stuff. Like we check that it's got traffic, that the traffic's not manipulated in any way. It's got what we would expect the DR to be. We don't build links on DR. Like we will happily build a link that is a DR5 if it's on a real website that has real traffic and it is relevant. Whereas I know a lot of agencies won't do that. We will do that. But yeah, to bring up what I said earlier, that like whenever anyone on the team is asking ourselves, should we build this link? We always ask ourselves this question. If Google or whatever other search engine you wanted to rank on didn't exist, would we still want this link? And if the answer is no, then really you don't want the link. It's just a good quality check. And a lot of our processes and like every metric that we measure a link on can be manipulated to look fake. A lot of it is just looking on the website. Is this a real legitimate website? For example, a lot of people will look at a website and they'll see too many ads on it and they'll go, don't want to deal with that. Whereas we look at it and go, okay, well, this is a real business. It's not a guest post farm. Not necessarily. Doesn't always mean it isn't a guest post farm, but do they have some other way to monetize other than just selling their links? Are they what we would call a real business? That's just one of the things we look for. But to reiterate, I think all of the most common link building methods can work. It's just people need to ask themselves, what is a quality link in their eyes? Because you can build great links, guest posting, you can build great links, niche edits, you can build great links doing Harrow. You can also build very bad links doing Harrow. You can build great links doing digital PR. We don't do a lot of digital PR. We do a little bit here and there, but it's usually quite out of the budget for a lot of our smaller clients, to be honest, because they're not simple things to put together, at least if you want to do it right. But yeah, in terms of quality link building, I think all the methods can work. It's just what is a quality link? And I think people need to be honest with themselves. Is this a quality website or not? I think most people are honest. Sometimes they build things that aren't what most people would define as a quality link. I know I've waffled on and rambled on a little bit there, but it's something we do a lot with.
Great. Yeah. So just taking it a bit forward, Richard, what is your perspective on guest posts versus niche edits?
So I like both. I think any natural link profile needs a mixture of both. I think whenever we do niche edits or link insertions, we try and add something to the page. It's not just a case of picking text on a page and adding it and forcing it to make it work. I know it works doing it that way. I feel better if we, for example, if we have a client and we build them an asset that has value in terms of linkability, internally links to our main service pages. It has a target term, so feasibly it can rank for something that's not necessarily our service, but it is closely related. I like to build those. And then when I'm doing outreach for the niche edits, we can add something to the page. I'm thinking of a bad example off the top of my head now, but you could go, here's a guide, like an additional guide that goes into X, Y, Z more in depth than that post. It's just, I feel a lot better if I'm adding something to the page as opposed to just inserting the link. That doesn't seem natural to me. But it absolutely does work that way as well. It's just something that we personally do very little of, because I just feel better when I'm adding something to the web, to a page than not, if that makes sense. But I do absolutely do both. And in terms of what we do more, I think we do more guest posting. I would have to check in all honesty, but I think so, yeah.
Great. Yeah, it was a fantastic conversation, Richard. But before we let you go, just wanted to ask you, given your extensive experience, what is that one piece of advice you'd want to give to businesses looking to enhance their SEO efforts?
Yeah, so I think with SEO, it's if you're not familiar with SEO, it's looked upon as like the dark arts. I think what people need to understand is we need to build a website that's easy to use. It's simple. We're not trying to do any tricks. If you're slightly tweaking keyword density, you're probably wasting your time. I think just building a good foundation and answer all the questions that your potential customer could want to, or potentially want to ask, is a good start. And then how you organize that, then that becomes a little bit more technical. But I think just building a good foundation with all your about pages, a supporting blog, all your terms and conditions pages, GDPR, all that sort of stuff, that's a good base to go off. I think in terms of link building, it can be, like, again, go back to the design, a little bit of knowledge can be dangerous. So I wouldn't like to just give link building advice in over 5 seconds. But I think what I have done before, and I can't remember who gave me the idea, was if you have no experience with link building, so how do you start? And we always tell people get in touch with us and they don't have the budget. So we always tell them that if you're going to do link building, write a list of your top 50 dream websites and then go through and what sort of content do they link to? Can you create something similar? And if so, reach out to them, but make it real, do a manual email, but just, that's what I would do. Create a list of our top 50 dream websites and outreach them and see what content they link to, and then build out similar content or see if there's any gaps in there. That's how I would approach it. Not talking about DR, referring domains, link toxicity. I think that's the safer way to go if you're not going to go all in on link building. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Great, yeah, Richard. It was a lovely conversation. And thank you so much for taking out time and doing this with us. Yeah, really appreciate it.
That's all right. Thanks for having me.